Welcome to Vinyl Side Chat. Tonight, we talk about Pearl Jam and their sophomore album, Versus.
She says don't go away, under lights feel safe, 'cause she loves it when I hold her, and she asks if I could stay. Sometimes it comes in waves, there's no other way. She rests her head upon my shoulder, and she asks if I could stay, if I could.
So good evening once again. I'm your host, Anthony Pagoric, frontman of the indie alt-pop rock band called Park in Maine, returning again for another Tuesday with another album that means so much to me. But before we get into tonight's feature, make sure that you're hitting that like button, you're hitting that whoa face, hitting the heart, whatever it shows that you enjoy coming here and hanging out with me with Vinyl Side Chat. Do you enjoy today's episode itself and who we actually are going to be talking about on the show? So if you're enjoying the content, enjoying your time here, please make sure that you guys are hitting that like button and you're hitting all that stuff. It really helps get this video out to even more people than we could ever imagine. So without further ado, let's get into this album. It means so much to me because this was actually the first CD that I actually ever got growing up as a kid. I got it as a gift from my cousin that she put a good word in with my aunt and uncle. And I got the CD and my parents kind of looked at me and they were like, really? And they didn't really know much about Pearl Jam at the time. They promised, they made me make them a promise that I would only listen to songs that I knew from the radio and I couldn't listen to anything else. But I don't think I ever told them, but actually what I used to do is that I wait for my parents to go to sleep and I'd go downstairs into our basement where my dad had his big stereo and I'd put up the volume so low that I had to put my ear up against the speaker in order to hear the actual music. And I would stay up late listening to this album from front to back, listening to some of the songs just over and over that I loved. I have a nasty habit for once I find a song that I like, just like putting it on repeat and listening to it 10, 20 times in a row, and I have no problem with it whatsoever. But that's how much that this album actually means to me. Now, the album itself, Versus, was a sophomore album by Pearl Jam, following up their smash hit, which a couple of you might remember, called 10. It was released on October 19th of 1993 through Epic Records, and after 2 years of being on the road supporting that album, the band decided, let's get off the road, let's relax a little bit, and let's write our follow-up. The dreaded sophomore album. And for most people, if you don't understand what that means in the music business, sophomore album is pretty much what either makes or breaks you as a band. There have probably been more bands that have been broken by their second album than have survived their second album. They tell you that you have your whole life to write your first album and you have about 6 or 7 months to write your second. So obviously there can be a difference in quality. So the band began rehearsals in Seattle, Washington at a studio called Potato Head Studios, and then they moved to The Site, was the name of the actual recording studio. It's called The Site in Nicasio, California, from March through May of 1993. Now the album featured a brand new drummer, Dave Abruzzi. Dave was a super talented drummer, wasn't really a rock or grunge drummer or anything else like that. He was actually had his name in the hat for trying out for Saturday Night Live's band at the time, G. Smith and the Saturday Night Live band. So he was going to go do that, but he gets a call from Matt Chamberlain, who, if you know it really quick, maybe you can type it in real fast, but he's the drummer of Soundgarden, who is now also the current drummer of Pearl Jam. Matt gives Dave a call and says, hey, you got to try out for Pearl Jam. They just lost their drummer. They got to finish out on tour. So he goes out kind of reluctant, and after the second show, as so the legend has it, is that he was so jacked after that second show that he actually went and got the famous Stickman Pearl Jam figure tattooed on his arm, and he was in the band off and running, finished the 10 tour with them, and then was getting ready to write with them in the studio. So the band decided, and this is how we go into the studio now. So they're in the studio, they're in California, and they decide that they're going to go one song at a time, which is way different than how a lot of bands track. All right, if I come in and bands come to my studio to track, or if we go, even for us as a band, if we go to track in another studio, we usually say, okay, we're going to do all the drums. Let's get all the drums done first for all the songs. Then we're going to lay all the bass for the songs. Then we'll lay all the guitars. And you stay and you work until all the songs are done usually. There's not too much skipping around, needless to say. You got some stuff here and there. But the band wanted to basically track a song, and not only track a song, do any overdubs that needed to be done, and then mix the song completely, get the song exactly where they wanted it, call it a day, then move on to the next song. And the only person, another band that I've heard that's done this as of recently has actually been like Daft Punk, is that they write a lot of albums like that where they write them one song at a time, craft and work, fully mix it down, and once it's fully mixed, then they move on. So the band decided then, if they were going to do it this way, to do one song at a time, they were all going to get set up like they normally would live, and they would track the album with as much of a live feel as possible. They didn't want to do a lot of overdubs, so they wanted to make sure that everything that they captured was like how they could play it live. And so with limiting overdubs, it also limits a lot amount of tracks. Like a lot of sessions in there, you might only have like 30 to maybe 40 at most individual tracks on an album, whereas today it's very, very common to have 60 to 100 tracks, different tracks going on at different parts of an actual song. So most of the songs were actually developed out of jams. They would sit in the studio and they would jam on ideas, and then the jams started to explore things organically. They got into punk vibes and funk influences and dancier kind of influences in an organic way that the band had yet to experience. So guitarist Stone Gossard actually said that he thinks by writing that way it actually helped to develop the album in a more natural, band-oriented sort of way, rather than bringing in a bunch of stuff that was already arranged. They wanted to write really, all get in a room and let's write. And then the cool thing happened next, as Stone said. He said, after we kind of jammed these songs out and got a framework of what the song was going to be, the songs really came into shape once Eddie got in the room. So Eddie Vedder comes in the room and he starts singing, and as Eddie's singing these songs, he said the songs naturally evolved into what they became. That Eddie would start singing different ways, and the band would start taking a song in a different direction, changing to a chorus, switching to a bridge. Hey, this is going to be the outro now, we got to do these different kind of stuff. And so he said you could really tell what the music wanted to do once Eddie started coming into the room and started singing. And Gossard continued to say that the album was also instrumental in showing the potential songwriting range of Pearl Jam. And they were very happy to know that they weren't going to maybe just be pegged in a certain way. He saw how Vedder could change the dynamics of a song, change the feel of a song, which gave a lot of more inspiration for the band to go into ballad-like material on this album. That they could do fast stuff and aggressive stuff on this album. They could do slower songs. They could do acoustic music. They could even do punk stuff if they wanted to. And he realized then and there that with Eddie Vedder at the helm on that lead vocal spot, that there was a lot of places that Pearl Jam could go with him as their singer, which was just confirmation, because if you remember during as they were writing 10, they had a lot of the songs already written. They needed a singer because their previous singer passed away. Eddie comes in, hey, we got these songs already written. Eddie has to sing a song, and they just went with it. Now, it worked out awesome. I mean, they wrote Black and Jeremy like that, Even Flow, like all within a week, which is disgusting to say. But back to this album. In the first week, the band wrote what would be the opening track for the album, Go, Blood, Rats, and Leash, all in that first week, and then they kind of hit a lull. They kind of hit a wall. And a lot of this had to do with Eddie Vedder. He had a lot of pressure on him because this being this big album that a lot of people were building up, and what are they going to do? And also Eddie was instantly uncomfortable by the environment that he was in. He did not like the studio setting. The rest of the band thought it was like they were living in paradise, and it was a great atmosphere to work in, and they were all relaxed, but Eddie wasn't. And Eddie, they allowed him to leave sometimes for a couple days at a time. He would drive all the way up to San Francisco in his truck, stay in his car, do different things to kind of just get him in a mindset that was able to be creative. And so things kind of got heated as it got towards the end of their allotted recording time, and when stuff was supposed to be finished. But all in all, the band worked with Eddie, and they got it done. And Vedder admits to this day that this was the least favorite recording experience that he's ever had with all the albums that Pearl Jam has ever had to write. So, when the album was finished, the band was super geeked out about this album. They wished they actually would have debuted Pearl Jam sounding like this, sonically speaking, with what they were bringing, with this raw and forward approach. It was direct, it was powerful. Like I said, it had heavy songs like the intro track Go and the next song Animal. Had 2 acoustic ballads and songs like Daughter and Elderly Woman Behind the Counter in a Small Town. And lyrically speaking, it was great because Eddie was now really doing a fine balancing act of talking about personal struggles, but also now introducing even more political themes into a Pearl Jam album. Unfortunately, a lot of stuff that he was talking about today is stuff that still plagues us today, which is why I think this album is still so relevant. And so Vedder said, you write what comes to you. You try to reflect on the mood of the songs. And so when he came in there, it wasn't like he was trying to force lyrics onto a song. He wanted to make sure that he was singing about the right kind of content to complement with what the band was doing musically. So political topics that are touched. I mean, if you talk about one of the first singles that came out, Daughter, was about child abuse. Glorified G, which was like the follow-up single to Daughter, was mocking the U.S. gun culture. The band actually, the drummer of the band went and bought a gun, and the band had a big problem with it, and they actually talked about a banned gun policy of what you should be able to have or carry around with you within Pearl Jam, because they weren't big about it. And so they wrote this kind of mocking tone to the U.S. gun culture. The band also, with the song WMA, this was a direct experience that they had, an unfortunate experience they had when living in Seattle. They were outside their rehearsal space, and one of their friends was African American, and he started getting harassed by the cops. And Eddie Vedder actually ran out to the street, got with the cops, and said, like, hey, what's going on? There's no problems here. He's with us. And the cops kept on continually harassing this man. And so because of this police racism that the band saw firsthand, they went on to write the song WMA. And then also with problems that the band was starting to get in with the media, which we'll get into a little bit later, they wrote a song called Blood. Now there are also personal issues that he sung about on the album. Rearview Mirror was about, as Eddie put it, being in a car, leaving what he quotes, quote unquote, as a bad situation. And then Vedder also had this idea looking at the human race at the time, looking at society, and that's what the song Rats is about. He actually had this idea that actually rats are probably a hell of a lot more admirable than humans are. So a lot of topics that Eddie is tapping into, and Eddie's really starting to become that songwriter that we know him as. And also Eddie is just being bold and singing what he wants to talk about and not being apologetic about anything. The album itself was produced by Brendan O'Brien. You might have heard of this guy before. He's worked with, hold on to your hats, Stone Temple Pilots, Neil Young, Black Crowes, Bruce Springsteen, Red Hot Chili Peppers. More recently, he worked with The Killers, Gaslight Anthem, and he's also worked with Pantera, to name a few. O'Brien actually produced and mixed nearly the entire STP and Pearl Jam catalog. And if he wasn't busy enough, you might have seen his name. He was also a vice president of Epic Records in the mid-90s after he got done recording this album. So now from a promotional standpoint, this is really cool because now the Pearl Jam also that we know, all right, starts showing its head. They want to take more and more control of what labels had to say in terms of what they were going to do with their careers and with their music. First off, they decided that for this album there was going to be no music videos whatsoever. It's been well documented that Eddie Vedder, even though Jeremy was a powerful video and I thought really important, especially for me, he hated every minute of that recording process. Didn't want to be in the spotlight, didn't want to be this front man that the camera was in his face and everything. And Jeff Ament, the bass player, also said, like, hey, we don't want to be a band who's known 10 years from now about a music video or a gimmicky kind of thing like that. We want to be known for our music. And so the band decided to go this direction, and it did not backfire. If anything, this album today is set a record, all right, for the band. It was the most albums that was sold in its first week at the time. That was a record that stayed for 5 years in the music industry. In terms of the Billboard 500 or 200 chart, it charted for 5 weeks at #1, which is their best rankings of all time. And then this album in the U.S. alone went 7 times platinum. That's 7 million albums sold in the U.S. alone. So finally, want to take a look at the album. Album is simply This picture that you see was taken by Jeff Ammett. It was featured a black and white picture of an Angora goat from Lifeline Farms in Victor, Montana. And according to Ammett, the cover was a representation of how the band felt at the time, stating that they felt like they were slaves. The album booklet contains, and it's all kind of in the vinyl. We have some of the pictures now in the CD booklet. This are on different pages. But if I kind of get up close here, you'll see this is a bunch of different lyric sheets that were all handwritten by Vedder, and then also a bunch of drawings that Vedder did. More importantly, you'll see that there's also a doodle that was done in a business meeting that says, I will never trust anybody again. The band, as I said, ended up calling this Verses, but for the longest time, this album was actually called 5 Against 1. And the reason was that is because earlier I said that they had problems with the media, and the music media was starting to spin Pearl Jam as this band versus everyone. Like, trying to separate them from other bands, and like it was a competition. And growing up in that Seattle scene, Vedder was very much aware of how they owed other bands gratitude for getting to where they were. Bands like Nirvana and bands like Soundgarden that they were best pals with. And so he said, listen, we're all in this together. Don't try to put us against the rest of the world. And so that's why they wanted to name the album 5 Against 1. But late in the process, and I don't know whether this was to kind of screw with the label or whatever the case might be, they decided to change the name. And here's the fun fact. They changed the name so late that the label had already sent out stuff to be pressed. So there's a bunch of early cassettes that actually have that 5 Against 1 on the cassette. And there's variances between vinyl, CD, and cassette with all different types of names. Actually, if you look at the vinyl was never pressed with the same artwork that's on the actual CD. It also never has the band's name or the album name on it. So it's, from a collector's standpoint, it's like, hey, it might be cool to collect all these different things, and especially some of those earlier copies that were sold that are still out there today. So that was intense. I feel like there's so much more that I can talk about this album. I'm only scratching the surface of everything behind this album, but needless to say, I think this album solidifies Pearl Jam in the music industry and show that they were more than just a grunge band. And it laid a foundation that let them have the careers that we see that they currently are having now. And being able to have success addressing political topics as well as personal and relatable music that you guys know and love. So let me know what is your favorite song from Versus in the comments if you want. Personally, for me, I've always been a huge fan of WMA and Rearview Mirror. So please check out my picks, The Clicks. Like I said, let me know what your favorite songs are off of this album. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. As always, I love talking about music that means so much to me in my career, music career. However, let me know if there's any other albums that you guys want to learn about more in the future. Like I said, education here goes two ways, so you might recommend some album that I haven't really checked out before, and I'd love to give it a spin, all right, and report back to you on the history and the making of that album. So please, as well, any albums you want me to do in the future, I would love to know what you guys would like to hear about. So now on to our local hour. We have 4 bands that of note that have recently released music. One are buddies of ours from the South Bend area. They're a band that called Spaceships. I've made friends over the past couple of years. Nathaniel Fitzgerald himself, the man has been a part of the South Bend Festival that's known as the River Lights Festival. We've been a part of it a couple of years now in a row, and great guy. They've helped put together this amazing festival, like I said, in South Bend that you should check out. It's always usually the first week of June, so it's super close to get to. Go. It's got some of the best bands in this immediate area that come and play it. So please check that out as well. But like I said, his band is Spaceships, and they've recently become like a 4-piece over the course of the year. They've kind of realigned like their lineup and everything. And now they've also put out this 4-song EP, which I think really takes their music to exactly where they always wanted it to be. The song was recorded at the House Fitzgerald, which is their personal kind of studio that they made for the recording of this 4-song EP called Tiny Fires. Head over right after this broadcast. Go over to We Are Spaceships at bandcamp.com. You can buy the digital download for $4, a CD for $5, or you can get a lathe cut vinyl, which is like some of the highest grade cut of vinyl that you can get for $20. Now I know you might say $20 for 4 songs. Well, guess what? All these songs together end up running about 18 minutes, so it's more than your money's worth. And if you like music that sounds huge, that's dynamic, that starts in one place, ends somewhere else, that's filled with spacey layers of sounds and noise, then this album just might be your jam. So once again, We Are Spaceships at Bandcamp.com. I had a buddy of mine actually recommend this next one. It's a band that's called Wraith. They're described as a Northwest Indiana black and trash metal. So Steve Early actually reached out to me and dropped this, and I promised him I'd get it out there. They just released this album called Absolute Power through Redefining Darkness Records. So if you head over to wraith-us.bandcamp.com, you can buy the vinyl, buy the CD, or once again, download the album. It is 10 songs, but really it's a fast listen of an album with everything. Most songs do not even hit the 3-minute mark. I think they have one song that hits actually over the 3-minute mark. It is pure just speed, metal punk album. It's just straight up thrash. It has really, in some parts, it's got like this Kill 'Em All Metallica vibe to it. Just no nonsense, headbanging, beer chugging music, as a lot of other guys describe it in write-ups that they've had. So once again, that's Wraith. Check them out. Next, buddies of ours that we've been in the scene with for a long time, the region's prog rock power pop quartet, Stop Drop Rewind. Last week they released new music. It's a new single that's called Words in Scary Stories. So anywhere that you can stream music, you can do this. So head over to Spotify right now. You can also head over to their Facebook page. They have a cool visual video that they had made for this actual song as well. The song is a jam. It's a rock jam. Reminds me of it's got some great moments that reminds me of like the Junior Varsity, if you like that band. So head over, take the prog rock journey that is Stop, Drop, and Rewind, and listen to their new song, Words in Scary Stories. And finally, I want to talk to you about other buddies of ours. They're called the Burst and Bloom. Throughout the course of 2019, they've been leaking this full-length album that they recorded with the great producer Sean O'Keefe, who has done so many huge Chicago bands over the course of time. Check out what he's done. They've also put out like a cassette and everything with all these songs, but they keep on featuring like one song a month. So new month, new song. The song is called What You Wanted, is now streaming everywhere. It is the band's, a couple of the guys, especially the lead singer Adrian Serrano, states that this is definitely one of his favorite songs on the album. It means a lot to him, so please do check it out. This band continues to showcase some of the favorite types of elements from 90s music that I truly love, and so every time I listen to these songs, I just keep on falling in love with that 90s vibe that they continue to bring. So definitely check it out if that is up your alley. Local shows of note. I had a bunch of people send in some stuff to me, which is awesome. So tomorrow, Wednesday, November 6th, 6 o'clock doors, 7 o'clock show. It is an all-ages event at the Cobra Lounge located in Ashland Avenue in Chicago, Illinois. $12 tonight if you still buy tickets. Otherwise, they're $14 tomorrow. The band Milk is coming through, and they're being supported by a great band that I love called Better Love from Chicago and Rom. Now, if you got to wait till the weekend to get your show fixed and you can't do something on a Wednesday night, the band Spineless Heartless is going to be out in Michigan City at Zorn Brew Works on Saturday, November 9th. They are going to play from 8 until 11. It is a free show. If you're not in the Michigan City area and you want to head to the other city, Chicago, we have friends of ours in a band called Violet Crime, and they are opening for a band that's called Satsang live at Martyrs. So it's going to be Satsang with Violet Crime, and Carl Roth Music are going to be the direct support. November 9th, once again, 8:30 is the show, $15 in advance. If you get tickets tonight, $18 at the door, and that is unfortunately a 21 and older show at Martyrs in downtown Chicago. Next weekend, I also got a heads up that another guy from the region, James Nearney, and his band, the Bevy Blue, are going to be up at the Livery in Benton Harbor on November 15th. They are going to be playing, they're going to have the opening slot for the funk explosion that is the North 41. So once again, this is Friday, November 15th. 8 o'clock our doors, 8:30 starts the show with James Nearney and his band. $10 in advance, $12 out of the door. Tickets are on sale now. You can find that link at their Facebook pages. So once again, that's James Nearney and the Bevy Blue. As always, if you have local music, news or shows, reach out and contact me. The coolest thing about today is that I put out a message about, hey, I'm doing the show today, what do you guys got? And people are now responding with stuff that they have. So word is getting out. This show, 4 shows into it, is now starting to kind of form into this kind of community that I always envisioned and hoped that it would be. And so it's great that it's happening as we enter the 4th episode. So let's keep this thing rolling. If you submitted stuff to me, keep on letting me know what's going on. If you got buddies and stuff like that, I want to expose you guys to as much different music, as much music as possible. Like here tonight, we got thrash, punk, metal, prog, we got a blues type of explosion band, and you know, all these different types of things that I want to let you guys know about. It's not just about one genre. So please contribute still to this community that we're starting. Like I said, every Tuesday I'm going to be doing episodes like this, sharing with you some of my most influential music that like I said, that has affected me over the years. But I'm also willing to take any kind of tips or examples that you guys might want to listen to as well. So the only thing that I can ask for you from, once again, if you're new to the show, did you know that you could head over to Park and Main's YouTube page and you can check out episodes 1, 2, and 3 of Season 2. I'll be loading this one later tonight or early tomorrow morning, so if you want to catch it on the replay or let a friend know about the show, if you really enjoyed the show today and you can't find the replay in the Facebook feeds, just head on over to our YouTube page. Much easier and simpler to find. It will be up there. I'll upload all of our past episodes, and I'm going to actually just put them into a playlist so you can start from episode 1 and go all the way to episode 4 today. But I will put that link to our YouTube channel in the links in the description below when I repost all this as well. The big thing is we're getting closer to 100 subscribers. We really hope that you guys can do that. It means the world to us if we hit that mark, because it opens up some other cool things that we can do in the realm of Facebook. So please, every subscription is great. If you like the videos that you're seeing there, please comment on those videos. Let us know what you think as well. And catch all the rest of the content that we're putting out as Park and Main. We just put out a brand new song last week. It's called I Hate to Drive, a brand new music video that we're super proud about. People have been super excited about it. It's been something totally different that we have never tried before, and it's gotten a great response. So why don't you head over there and check that out as well. So until next week, I urge you to please find some time to visit an old album and reconnect with it. And then you might just find it taking you back to an amazing place. So see you next week. You've been watching Vinyl Side Chat, and I will see you guys next Tuesday. Enjoy the rest of your week. Bye.